I'm gonna wander around.
Good enough?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. You try not to get me run
Don't
over
get
here.
hit.
Come on, thanks everybody.
No, we're just lifting the pizza. Oh, good. You're doing okay.
Well, thank you all for coming today on a short that is in such a cold day. That shows your dedication and the importance of what we're trying to do today. To protest against the voter suppression and preserve democracy. And we will do more of these events at different places in Cheshire County. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Mohammad Saleh. I'm the current chair of the county committee. And standing right next to me is Susan Hay. She is at-large delegate and also chairing that's giving us salute. That she is leading the communication subcommittee, and they're working very hard coming up with ideas to protest and promote different events that are important. So please visit our webpage periodically and look for our emails. And if you are not getting email, reach out to us. There is a sign up sheet.
The clipboard.
It's back there. In case you haven't signed it yet, please do.
You need a clipboard to sign?
Yep, there you go.
Rock and roll.
Okay. So with that, I will let Sue speak, and she will tell you what kind of suppression that's being done here in New Hampshire.
Well, actually, I think that in terms of the thing, we're going to let Jay come up, Senator Khan come up and talk with us about what's going on in the Senate. And then Emma Greenberg is here, and she is going to read a letter from Maggie Hassan, who has actually worked really hard on this issue. And then I'm going to tell you the sort of the worst of the worst. I asked I asked the folks at the state party. There are 70 some House bills related to voting. Almost all of them are horrible, and I said I just want the hit parade. What are the worst ones? Yeah. So I've got 8 to talk to you about, and it's really, and then I'll talk to you about what I'd love for you to do about them. But let's give it to Senator Khan first.
All right, wow. Senator Khan.
Yeah, I'm glad to do it, but everyone wants to know what those 8 are.
Don't worry.
Hey, I'm going to talk about 3 things. The first one is secure voting. Make no mistake about it, we're all in favor of secure voting, right? That is not a party issue. There's 7,000 volunteers across the state of New Hampshire that assure safe voting every election. So it's important to trust those people, to train them, and to support them. Because we have some of the safest elections in any state in the nation. And don't let somebody trump up some charges that say otherwise. Number 2, we want all people to vote. Everybody who's eligible ought to vote. In today's world, how does that happen, that people don't have the opportunity to vote? It's just common sense. The absentee ballots should be just, the escape, that if I can't go to a poll, I got another option. And we don't believe in that in this state, and it's just wrong. It ought to be a right. You shouldn't have to lie about it and say I'm going out of town or I'm impaired. You shouldn't have to lie about it. Right. I just chose, because of my situation, to vote absentee. Okay, that's good, but we have a legislature right now that's led by Republicans that don't believe that you ought to have that right. So, tell your neighbors, it's a little lie, no problem. But really, can't we get better than that? You know, and thank goodness for the courts, because if you do go to the poll and you aren't registered and you want to do same-day vote registration, thank goodness they struck down the ridiculous affidavit that took 10 minutes to read and
Wait.
just I know. Oh, I'm sure. You can put dollars to donuts on that.
Right.
That someone's coming back to try to correct what the Supreme Court overruled. So, and then third, we ought to have fair districts. I mean, and Cheshire County shouldn't be some, you know, something that is just picked away at to fill in the gaps for other districts that need to go to be Republican. It's just, this is silliness, and it's not in the best interest of Cheshire County. Cheshire County's got 76,000 people. Each Senate district has 60,000 people. We should be 1 1/3 district. It's pretty simple, right? No. Cheshire County is carved up into 4 different districts. Each Senate district, 8, 9, 10, and 12. Each of those districts is spread over 2 counties in the map that's designed by the Republicans. So it's Senate Bill 240. And remember that one, because if you haven't written to, don't write your state senator, he knows it. but do write to Republican state senators and say, this is silliness. So here's how it goes. If you were doing a nonpartisan commission like Democrats proposed and passed through the legislature, only to be vetoed by Governor Sununu, was an independent commission. And the independent commission probably would have looked at court decisions. And the court decisions on fair voting districts say, is it a compact area? Rule number 1, compact area. Rule number 2 is common interest. And you can define common interest based on your county, your school district, your place of commerce. It wouldn't be real hard to figure that a common area of interest is Keene and Monadnock school districts. But no, there's some interest there somewhere to carve up even that simple combination and have Troy and Fitzwilliam and Richmond and Winchester and Hinsdale vote in a district that's represented currently by a senator in Bedford. Bedford.
Yeah, why should you not want to drive an hour to go to your...
Oh, you would. You can't make that trip in an hour. I tried it one time. I had a meeting in Bedford from Hinsdale. I had a school district meeting in Hinsdale. Drove over to and this is Google Maps now. It's 73 miles and takes an hour and 37 minutes. What they did to the district that I represent here in Senate District 10, our district for Keene is now got Peterborough in it, in their design. Peterborough has a relationship in the Convale school system with their towns, and then with Ringe and Jaffrey, the Jaffrey-Ringe School District. And that makes sense to combine those 2 districts as a common area of interest. But no, Ringe is assigned to a district that's represented by a Republican in Nashua, and Peterborough, because it must be so democratic, is collared into a crazy district that stretches from Keene and Walpole over to Peterborough. And then Marlow, Stoddard, they're combined to go to a district that starts in Charlestown and ends in Dunbarton. 60 miles and an hour and 20-minute drive. The point is, you ought to know who your state senator is, and you know, and that person ought to be able to know you and your issues and how you relate to a common area of interest. But it's not being defined that way. These are so straightforward principles. A compact area and a common interest, and that's the way districts ought to be designed. In where do you get the word gerrymandering? Anyone got that answer?
Governor Jerry.
Governor Jerry in 1812 in Massachusetts. He's the guy who he drew the salamander district.
Oh, that's right.
Gerrymander. And that's what we've got, is gerrymandered districts being proposed by our Senate Republican colleagues. So it's the same thing that they did for the Executive Council district. And if you've noticed, the congressional districts,
that one's awful.
they are drawn in a manner that has a horseshoe shape. If you're in the horseshoe, you're in Senate District 1. And if you're outside the horseshoe, you're in Senate District 2. And it's all designed to take Portsmouth, Rochester, Somersworth, Durham, and Exeter out of District 1, take those Democratic voters and move it to District 2. So it's not just in the Senate, it's in every redistricting proposal, a gerrymandered redistricting that really, yeah.
Illustration.
Yes. I'll do it. It's a good sign. Thank you, Susan.
No, that's a Jeff Dinkler one.
All right, so
It's all good.
so, and the reason we're going to keep this up is because nobody's vote, nobody's town should be taken for granted. Keene shouldn't be taken for granted as a Democratic haven, and nor should Winchester be taken for granted as a Republican area.
Right.
Democrats can win in Winchester, and we need fair and competitive elections throughout New Hampshire. And that's what we stand for. So we've got to keep this issue up all the way to November, because nobody's vote should be taken for granted, and everybody ought to have the opportunity to vote. Right on.
Thank you, Jay.
Is there any legal things underway to try and counter this? Are there any?
Yeah. There's a Democratic proposal for executive council
I'm
and
talking about legally challenging the map.
to take them to court
Yes.
on the matter of compact area and common
Yeah.
interest.
I mean, moving those cities that tally up population-wise to 375,000 people over here.
Yeah.
Not right now, right?
I don't know. I would guess the Democratic Party is going to take them to court on the gerrymandering.
They better.
What I heard that last time it was tried legal, it did not succeed, so the likelihood of success is low. The real protest has to be done in November. We have to show,
ballot,
and
yeah.
this is the purpose here we are gathering. Let your neighbors know, let your friends know this is criminal, and we won't stand for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator Gunn,
You're welcome.
for being out here. I'm going to ask Emma to come up next and read this letter from Senator Hassan, and then I'm going to talk, and then Barbara we are days away from the Martin Luther King
Yesterday.
holiday. Yes, right. And right. So there's a quote from Martin Luther King that we think is worth us all hearing as we move away from this. Okay, go for it, Emma.
Hi everybody, I'm Emma. I'm the Regional Political Director for the western part of New Hampshire for Senator Hassan's re-election campaign. She regrets she cannot be here today, but I have a letter to read on her behalf. Awesome.
And come a little closer.
Dear Cheshire Democrats, Thank you for gathering here today to speak up on behalf of our democracy. While I regret that I cannot join you in person, I wanted to share with you why I believe the work to protect our elections and every American's fundamental right to vote is so urgent. Our beloved democracy is under attack. In states across the country, partisan politicians are trying to reject the will of the people, interfere with elections, and overturn election results. These efforts threaten the integrity of our electoral system and undermine people's faith in our democracy. There is nothing that would please authoritarian regimes more than to see our system of self-government fail. That is why last month I delivered a speech on the Senate floor calling for a simple majority vote to pass legislation to protect the right to vote and our elections. We must take action to ensure that our democracy, that our elections are free, fair, and impartially administered. Our democracy and our country depends on us doing so. My father was a World War II veteran who survived the Battle of the Bulge. Growing up, he would look up at us from time to time across the breakfast table and ask, "What are you doing for freedom today?" It was a big question to ask a child, but he was serious. He taught me that all of us have a responsibility to help protect our democracy. I'm committed to that work in the United States Senate, and I know that everyone who is gathered here today is dedicated to that work as well. Thank you for all that you are doing to keep our democracy strong. Every generation of Americans have stepped up to defend freedom, and you are continuing that proud history. Cheshire Democrats, let's continue to work together so that we can meet this moment and protect our democracy. With every good wish, Senator Maggie Hassan. So thank you so much.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. All right, here comes the big eight. All right. The big first eight. One. CACR. And why is it CA? Because it is a constitutional amendment. The Republicans have been trying since I can remember to disallow college students to vote locally. To disallow college students to vote locally. And they've been stopped by the courts because our Constitution says you only have to be domiciled here. You don't have to be resident here. So when they can't win that way, what do they want to do? They want to change the Constitution to say you have to be residents here, not domiciled here. Okay? So that is right out of the gate a miserable, dangerous, request. I don't personally know what's required, and I haven't had time to look into it yet in terms of changing the Constitution. I know it's not a 50% kind of thing, but it should.
It has to be 60% of the legislature and 2/3 of the people.
Citizens, right? Okay, all right. So while we might not be about to die on, to lose on that, this is their intent, and it's very clear. HB 1574. This is a real sweet one. They want to say this says that any out-of-state student that votes in New Hampshire cannot be charged out-of-state tuition. This is like $130 million hit to our public, college system.
They don't care if they destroy the public.
At all. No, it's worse than that, Joe. That's part of the goal of this.
Yeah.
This is a twofer. It's not just that college students won't win or won't be able to vote. It's also that they'll tear apart our education system.
Yeah.
Okay, HB 1542. That thing that you were talking about of the affidavit. No, now we can't use the affidavit. If you show up, the affidavit doesn't happen. Now it's a provisional ballot, according to this, which means that you are not voting when you're there, like you would with that ridiculous, but still, it was your vote, affidavit. So that's a change that they're working on.
So they can just go ahead and throw it away.
Right.
Because it's a provision.
HB, where am I? 1153. This says, and this is actually how it happens in Keene. I don't know if it is throughout the state, but in Keene, if you want an absentee ballot, you have to go in and apply for it. And you can't get the ballot until you apply for it. This wants to make that the law throughout the state. And so it's like a preemptive strike. They know that, as Jay said, we're like, why? You could give all of us absentee ballots, and if we wanted to do it that way, we could vote that way. Many places allow that. There is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But this is a preemptive strike on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And while as we're gearing up for this election, let's do an audit of the 2020 election.
Run by the Republicans, of course.
Absolutely. Let's have an audit. You know, because that isn't going to cost any money. And
No, it won't. It will cost money.
no, I'm being very facetious. And
Okay.
what I want you guys to think of now, and I'm just coming right out of President Biden's speech here, is there are efforts to suppress the vote, right? And that's like saying that no, you know, college students can't vote, or the college can't charge them out-of-state tuition. That's an effort to suppress the vote, to keep people away from voting. There's a whole nother set of things that are going on here, which is an effort to subvert the vote. It's to subvert the results of the election.
Yeah.
So auditing the 2020 election is one of those. It's just a way to create confusion and to maintain the complete nonsense of that there was something wrong with that elections and that our elections are not to be trusted. Okay.
Yeah, they want it to be just like Arizona.
Yeah. So,
And who knows?
1064.
As far as the audit, are they going to maintain the security of the ballot?
Well, that's what I'm about to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So 1064 says all voting has to be done by hand, and all counting of votes has to be done by hand. No more machine counting. Now, what do you think? Is that machine more accurate, or is that group of 3 people that are trying to stay focused, you know, more accurate in counting it? We know the machines are more accurate. We know that. If there's a question, we still have the paper ballots that we can look at and that we do look at.
Sure.
This is designed to say, oh, you know what? We're not going to know who won for weeks, maybe even months, because it takes a really long time to count all those votes. And that is what they want.
Yeah.
They want it to be unclear who won, so all of that yada 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 about, oh, this wasn't free, and maybe we need to look at that, and maybe we need to look at this, will continue, and people will lose confidence in our electoral system. This is like almost my favorite. Jay, you were talking about how great the courts have helped us, and they have. But this one says that any citizen can sue an elected official in superior court if they don't think they've done their job right. If they don't think that, you know, I saw them do this or they did that or whatever, they can sue them in the Superior Court of New Hampshire. All right? And if they prevail, quote unquote, then they get all the legal fees reimbursed. So this is just your basic witch hunt. This is designed to make people say, I don't want that job.
Right.
I don't want to do that job.
Right.
You know, I'm going to get sued if I do that
and
job.
I'm sure that
And just to make it,
Republicans would be very glad to fund that.
and the last one, 1174, just to make it a more miserable thing to be an elected official, an election official in New Hampshire. You know that rule about that you have to stay 6 feet away from the people who are trying to count the ballots or register the people's votes? Nope. Now it says nothing about how close you can be. It
Right.
only says you can be closer than 6 feet. So there's no limit here
Yeah, they
that
can
says
stand
you
right over
can't
you and
stand
say,
right next to David.
Yeah.
There's none of that. It only says you can be closer than 6 feet. It's the same effort. It is to subvert the election process, our confidence in the results, and our ability to get a free and fair election. So that's the top 8. You're going to see these on our website.
Good work.
There's a tremendous amount of work that has to go in to making these not happen. So here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to look on our website for these. I'm asking you to go home and tell people what is going on right now and what they are proposing. Tell your friends, also get on social media and do it. This isn't complicated. It isn't complicated at all. you know, what they're
Another
doing.
suggestion, write letters to the editors
Yeah, that's another good idea. Very good idea, okay?
and write letters to your representatives.
240.
Yes, and SB
And if
240.
you are on Facebook, it's much easy to share, so we'll have it on Facebook too.
Yeah, we're gonna do a post for each of these, okay? So this needs to get out, all right? Okay, that's what we're here for. I'm gonna ask Barbara to read this, this quote, and then I'd like everybody to go back out, if you would, for 5 more minutes, and then make sure to give us back the signs, even the handmade ones, because we're gonna be doing this a lot, all right? Thank you so much for
thank
coming
you.
out in 10-degree weather.
And I would like to thank again, and we are going to have events in other towns. Please join us, because Keene is blue, we want to make the whole county blue.
But we can't rely on Keene staying blue.
Keene staying
No,
blue.
right,
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted.
Right, right.
Not.
So,
100% not.
thank you all.
Wait,
Thank you for your support.
Barbara's gonna read this.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, and then you can go back.
When we start reading the change, they're going to use Trills. Trills is the next step.
Very loud, Barbara. All right, quiet, guys.
I'd like to read you a few excerpts from Martin Luther King's 1957 Give Us the Ballot speech about voting rights that are pertinent where we find ourselves today. It was given prior to the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And this is excerpts, it's not the entire letter. This opposition has often risen to ominous proportions. Many states have risen up in open defiance. The legislative halls of the South ring loud with such words as interposition and nullification. But even more, all types of conniving methods are still being used to prevent Negroes from becoming registered voters. The denial of this sacred right is a tragic betrayal of the highest mandate of our democratic tradition. And so, our most urgent request to the President of the United States and every member of Congress is to give us the right to vote. In this juncture of our nation's history, there is an urgent need for dedicated and courageous leadership. The civil rights issue is not ephemeral, evanescent, domestic issue that can be kicked about by reactionary guardians of the status quo. It is rather an eternal moral issue that may well determine the destiny of our nation. The hour is late. The clock is ticking out. We must act now before it's too late. But I must say to you this afternoon, keep moving. Let nothing slow you up. Move on with dignity, honor, and respectability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.